Hey y'all, welcome to Transformation to Expansion with your host, LaJoie Bradley. Today we have our mystery guest for our live show today. And as you can see, it is Jackie Levine, our expert cardiologist, numerologist, and all of the above. So welcome her. Welcome her to the show. Thank you so much, Jackie, for being here, being our mystery guest for our live stream today. Our audience was filled with questions that they wanted to ask you regarding just being successful and really what is cardiology, because a lot of our guests didn't really know about it until they came across the episode that we had done months before. So thank you so much for being here today. How are you doing?
Thank you so much, LaJoie, for having me back. I am doing well. I'm in New York City and the temperature is nice and cool. So I'm happy to be
Oh.
on live with everybody, answering your questions and just getting more into the metaphysics. I think the world needs to know more about this. So I'm excited.
Okay. Yeah, me too, me too. So to start off, before we get into the guest questions, we discussed, before the show that we wanted to kind of talk about just plant medicine and how it can help. And I guess fungi medicine, because technically mushrooms is not a plant. So we're going to talk about that first, just to give y'all like kind of a basis on some of the ways that plant medicine can really help you let go, really, and release, right? This is the main purpose of, I think, a lot of plant medicines is for people to really let go of the things that are keeping them trapped in specific loops, right?
Yes.
So, one of I think was like a couple months ago. We're gonna mention her. Jada Pinkett Smith talked about her experience with ayahuasca and how it really helped her become aware of how she was choosing to participate in certain loops that were leading to her depression,
Right.
And ultimately like suicidal thoughts. Like it was really really intense. And this is one of the biggest things. A lot of people they experience these cycles, but they don't really understand or aren't aware of how they participate in the cycles and how they are contributing to their attachment to those cycles. So, one of the ways that plant medicine can help with this is by allowing you to really detach from your ego, really like that separation process, and see everything from a new perspective. So real quick, what was one of your experiences with plant medicine or with fungi?
So
How did
I
it help
had a
you get?
mushroom trip a few years ago, and it's a few years because I'm not
Mm-hmm.
sure if I want to venture back in. I did a strain called Penis Envy, and Penis Envy is
Mm-hmm.
one of the stronger strains. And so I decided I wanted to take a 7 gram experience. But when you take Penis Envy, I took 5 grams of it. It is double the dosage in terms of the experience that you have. And so the experience could be anywhere between 5 and 10. And so my thing, because I don't drink and I don't smoke, I don't really have vices like that, and my body's really clean. I eat, I'm vegetarian for the most part, pescatarian. It just took immediately. So the preparation, I had what I call a mushroom doula. She took me through my
Mm-hmm.
mushroom trip, and she prepared before the trip. She prepared a tea, a heart opening tea that was made of jasmine. But later on, as I was re-listening to my own podcast and she was on, she put kratom in it. I'm not sure if you know about kratom leaf.
It
It,
sounds familiar.
it's a leaf that's used to treat opioid addictions. And some
Mm.
people take little, like, microdose it so that it acts like a stimulant and an upper. And so wasn't really sure. I didn't even know at the time that she had put that in. I'm pretty sure it contributed to my experience, which was really a trip. But after we did
Mm.
that, we programmed the mushroom and we spoke into it, because my intentions for taking this mushroom trip, and you should always have intentions before you do any trip, was to get to the root of my stage fright and anxiety, particularly in a jazz
Mm.
workshop that I had just entered after being away for the pandemic for 2 years and then going back into that space. And around the people, some of whom I had known before, some new, but the level of anxiety was so high. I wanted to get to the root of it to discover why this was, to remove it, and also to tap into my mediumship abilities. And so, speaking my intentions into the mushrooms about that, and then she soaked it in lemon juice and hot water, and I drank it down like a tea. And so it took like
Mm-hmm.
about 20 minutes before it took effect. But when it did, I remember my first reaction was that I'm on the floor. We're doing our movements because we're doing yoga movements to move the energy around so it's not stagnant. And I start to lay on my back. I'm doing what's called bridge pose with yoga, when your legs are up. And I'm moving my pelvis. And so I'm realizing that I have a lot of blocked sacral energy. And at that time, I wasn't very sexual. And that's something that we need to be, hold on, that's something that we need to be, period, in terms of man or woman. Having sex is something that's extremely important. And that was coming through in my experience because I kept having to move my sacral chakra and gyrating and pumping and all of this other things. And then after that, just had this intense lonely feeling in terms of being separated from a mother's love and having that, going through that feeling of not knowing what it is to have a motherly connection. And so I go through that and I'm crying and I'm trying to understand like why I'm separated from my mother, because I know in this life I do have one, but I'm trying to get to the root of who this mother is and what life this was. And then I am transported into like a Chinese empire. And so I'm seeing all of the different temples. I'm seeing all like this Guanyin symbol. I'm seeing all of like fossils and all of the Chinese lettering and things. And I'm like, okay, so I know that at some point in my life, I definitely was connected because every time my ancestors come through, they point to the Guanyin. They're like, this is you, this is you. And I just have a really close connection to Chinese people. Like they see me and they just like me for some reason. And so I know that that's definitely some past life connection there. And so going through that, I'm on the floor, I'm crying, I'm laughing, I'm going through all of the emotions because, like you said, it's an ego death. It's removing you from your ego. Your ego wants to come out and protect, but this plant is saying, no, we have to break through the layers. And so, going through several different experiences through this process, I decide now, after I have enough of the crying and things, I go to use the bathroom. And I'm in the bathroom in my bedroom, because I did it at home. And I'm on the toilet and it feels like I'm in a drug den. Like I'm sitting on the toilet bowl and I am full-fledged heroin addict on the toilet and I'm leaning and I'm drooling and I'm just trying to find my center and balance on the toilet. I know that I'm in my apartment, but it's having the effect like I've been in these bathrooms in clubs before. Like I'm just out. And so trying to find a center and try to find a safe space, I fall off the toilet and onto the floor. And so my girlfriend comes back into the room and she's like, what are you doing on the floor? And I'm like, I have no control. I have no control. I can't control this. And then I get up off the floor and my hair is a mess. And I'm like, oh my God, my hair is a mess. Like, look at this. Like, why do I look like this? And she's like, you can't be between both things at the same time. Like you are in the present, you are in the past. You can't judge the experience. Like don't worry about timing. Like there is no such thing as time. There are no time constraints. And so just understanding that the continuum is all one and that you have no control and that I had to allow myself to go through these experiences so that I can get to the part of the healing. So that was necessary. So a lot of my trip was really about me realizing that in past lives or in one particular past life that I was already a jazz musician. I don't know that it was definitely not a vocalist. I think I was a horn player, very connected to Coltrane energy because he kept coming through. And I had asked for that mediumship ability. So after he came through, other celebrities who had passed away, the 27s, like Janis Joplin, Amy Winehouse, they were coming through. And so experiencing that and knowing that having a deep tie to that world and also to addiction was something that I had to work through. And that life, I'm still working through that because I'm still drawn to jazz. I'm a jazz singer now, but transcending it so that one, not being addicted again, but also getting out of the loop that you spoke about earlier in terms because jazz is one big loop. Like this is the only genre where we continue to sing songs from back in the day. Like we continue to sing the same songs over and over and over, stuck in that cycle. And so trying to break away from that, but still preserve the medium.
Okay, what do you, so that's interesting. What do you mean by that? So, Because jazz, okay, so my interpretation, my interpretation in a very limited education of jazz is, I mean, I listen to Coltrane, I listen to Pharoah Sanders. Pharoah Sanders is like another level, another level. Like
Mhm.
some of the tracks, I'm like, I can't do this. Like it's so beautiful, and then it just gets chaotic, which is beautiful, right? Because this is really creation, right? That's really what it is. But I remember talking about this to somebody who's like has a PhD in music. He was like, no, there's a rhythm to it. You just got to listen. And I'm like, I don't even know if I can listen to it like that. Like it's just like
Yeah.
it's a little painful. It's a little pain. And anyway, my point is, but you said that there's a loop to it. What do you mean? So for me, because my experience with jazz is very spontaneous, it's very improv. What do you mean there's a loop to
The
it?
loop is what I was speaking about in terms of we singing the same songs over and over, and so we're creating
Mm,
music from back in the day. Jazz is one that we are constantly paying homage to those who have come before us, and so they have what's called the Great American Songbook, and most
mm,
jazz vocalists and musicians will play from that songbook. Whereas
mm,
the attempt to create something new is not always as popular. So if you were to go into any jazz club or even a concert, you would find that they're singing songs that were written in the 40s, 30s, 50s, 60s, and they're still
mm,
singing them today. And the crowd expects you to sing these songs. Like if you come with original music, like they will be amenable to it. They will tolerate it, is the word I'm using, but they are expecting you at some point to sing a standard. And so that's when
mm,
being stuck in that loop of having to revisit those times, because jazz comes out of a very painful place. Lynchings, it comes out of killings, it
mm,
comes out of slavery, it comes out of oppression. And so channeling all of those emotions into that art form, that was our way to escape, to find an other. And so if you're constantly reliving those times and then introduce heroin to those audiences because it's the happening thing, oh, take this so you can stay up at night and play gigs. Because jam sessions go from any time from 7 to like 2, 3 in the morning. So this will keep you up. So that's the loop that I'm speaking about. Stuck in the culture of it,
mm,
not being
mm,
allowed to reinvent, reimagine, and come up with different ways to explore it, like you said, without it being off the wall. Like still having it be accessible where you can recognize a melody in it, but still being able to have that musicality that jazz is known for. So your friend is right. There is a pattern to it, but you just
mm-hmm.
gotta kind of be introduced to the way that it's laid out, the form of it, I should say.
Yeah, yeah, it's beautiful. You have a very like deep connection to jazz. Where did that come from? Like, where did it
This,
originate?
this past life, I'm
Oh,
assuming.
right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
This past
That's
life,
crazy. Yeah.
I really believe that I had some connection. If I am not reincarnated Coach Lane, I definitely have some connection to him because I've always said I wanted my voice to sound like a horn when I sing.
Mm,
And so just
mm-hmm.
understanding the whole idea of a horn player and the phrasing and wanting to emulate that with my voice, definitely something from a past life. So that trip made me realize that. But it also made me come out of it in a way like I don't even want to do this because at a certain point, my girlfriend put on the music that you speak of that just sounded really chaotic, which I'm
Mm-hmm.
used to in my everyday life because I do free improvisation. And free improvisation is when everybody's playing at the same time. And to the average listener, it sounds like chaos. But for those who are accustomed, you're hearing and you're listening and you're responding, but people don't really recognize it. There's no tempo, there's no form in that. So people are like, what the hell is this? But it's like a spiritual release for us.
Yeah.
And so she put that on, and I was like, oh, hell, this is madness. Like, this felt like a descent into madness.
Girl, period. Like, it's intense. It's intense. Oh my yeah, if y'all don't know, just look up Pharoah Sanders and look up oh man, I think it has creation in the name of the track. I forgot what the name of the track is, but just look it up and listen to the whole thing. But because yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy.
Hmm. So when I finished that, I was like, all right, I'm done. I don't want to do this art form anymore. I threw out all my sheet music. I stopped singing for like months. And then I was like, all right, you're a bit extreme. Like, you're bugging. Like, you got to
Hmm.
go back to it because there's some unfinished business there. But again, just finding what that is. It needs to be
Hmm.
accessible. Like, that's what I'm saying. It needs to be accessible. It needs to be healing, but it still needs to have that musical genius that jazz is known for.
Yeah, that originality, right? I think that's one thing about jazz. It can be very original, and that's why it's so. I think when people play jazz, they're very connected to the divine or to source because it's creation, and when you're tapped into creation in any modality, right?
Yeah.
That's when you can truly experience God. Um, but that's amazing. So, what caused you to? So, I was so actually. Was there? So, was it just the jazz loop that caused you to take to go on the mushroom trip? Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Okay.
that,
Okay.
and also to explore my talents and my gifts in mediumship and knowing how to
Mm-hmm.
channel those who have passed over. Because now I can do it in my sleep. Like
Mm-hmm.
I go to sleep and I'm talking to everybody. I'm having
Mm-hmm.
conversation with those who passed, ancestors, celebrities. I can travel all the time in my sleep, but I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to be able to do it in wake. And
Mm.
having that experience with it, what was interesting is at one point my girlfriend was sitting by the bed and she had a feather in her cap, which was like a totem. So when I
Mm-hmm.
saw the feather, I knew that I was grounded because I needed something to ground me because I was wearing Moldavite when I took my trip. I was wearing black.
Ooh.
Talk about it, right? Crazy.
Why would you do that? Why would you do that? Moldavite, oh my God, for those of y'all who don't know, it's a very powerful stone. When I got it, I literally picked the smallest Moldavite because I knew that I was like, I'm not ready for the big one. People were like, oh, let me get the biggest one. Mine was like this, like maybe that big. I was like, I already know what this is about. And then did you communicate to it at least, or did you just wear it?
I communicate.
Okay.
I communicate. Girl, I had my Moldavite bracelets that had like 5 pieces on it, the Moldavite earrings, and my Moldavite chain. Like I was Moldavited out. Like it was crazy. And so I kept having these synapses, like my nervous system was constantly being stimulated because it kept sending me up and down, up and down. Like I was constantly like being shot out my body back in. And eventually spirit was like, take the Moldavite off. And it took me a while to even during the trip to get the wherewithal to get the clasp off and all of that. But once I did, I was better to be grounded because I was tripping out with that Moldavite. And so she's
Was
sitting. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
So she's sitting at the end of the bed, and I see this feather, and she's like, "What's going on?" And I'm like, "What's up?" And I crawl to the end of the bed, and I'm looking at her like, "Who are you?" I'm like, "Are you my enemy or are you my friend?" And she's like, "I'm both." And when she said that, I see a shoe, Ilegua. And so I'm like, so now I'm like paranoid in my head, like, oh, this bitch, she tricked me. Like she made me take this bush so I could be trapped in here. Cause you know, his shoe is
Mm-hmm.
the guardian of the crossroads, but also the trickster. So I'm like, people
Yeah.
told me not to take this, and now I'm stuck. I'm stuck. I'm gonna be stuck. And so I'm looking at her like, oh, like I don't even know if I can trust you, if I can believe who you are right now. And so having all of those, I'm seeing her, I'm seeing a shoe. At a certain point, she makes me get out the bed and she makes me look into the mirror, and I see like Baron Samdi interposed on my face, and I'm like, okay, like I'm seeing way too much. Like
Yeah.
it was a lot. It was a lot of spirituality, beings, entities, orishas coming through, people coming through. And so my thing is just be mindful what you ask for when you go on these mushroom trips, because sometimes we want to know too much. And I think the discovery is in the living, like living it out. Like we don't always have to know
Mm.
the answer for everything that's hidden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's intense. And the Moldavite. Okay, so let's pause real quick. We need to talk about this. So, okay, was it the first time you wore this Moldavite jewelry or no?
No, I wear it all the time.
Okay.
I wear
Okay.
multiple
Okay.
every day.
Well, I guess I don't know. I think maybe once you go through the intense part of Moldavite, it's kind of good at
Get
afterwards.
acclimated to it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so with Moldavite, for those of you who don't know, it's a very powerful stone. It's like called the stone that makes you or allows you to tap into the universe. So you wearing it on top of the mushroom, girl, that's crazy. That's crazy. That is crazy. Like you see, I'm not saying anything else. It's like I can't believe you did that.
But
I
I'm
can't
happy
believe you did
to
that.
recognize that because a lot of people will be like, oh, okay, Moldavite. But you're like, no. Like you recognize the enormity of wearing it. Like I have a Moldavite ring on that I wear. The
Oh, wow. Oof.
I wear that every day.
And that's pretty
So
big too.
I have to
Yeah.
wear this every day. Like I can't move around
Mm.
without this. But I had this on, the
Mm.
earrings, the chain. Like I was just like blinged out with the Moldavite. But it was a lot because what it does is takes you to meet your extraterrestrial ancestors. And so when you had that small piece, when I first started, I got a small piece like that, and it disappeared.
Mm-hmm. Mine did too. Wait, go ahead.
It disappeared because they were showing me that they were protecting me. Whenever your stones disappear, they disappear to protect you. And that same night, they took me in my sleep. Well, not took me, but I had a dream where I saw them, met them, and they showed me on Earth where they are located in New York. And so I go to Prospect Park and I sit in a particular valley all the time. Like I need to get to work, to regroup, to recharge. And they showed me like what you see is one thing, but where they are, same spot in Prospect Park, but it's a row houses. Like solar paneled row houses where they are as well, and that's where they dwell. And ancestors there protecting, made a bath, bathed me and everything. So they showed me that they were protecting me on that level, cosmic level as well. So you're right, Moldavite is a very powerful stone. Since then, I haven't had any other dreams with them, but I'll stay connected with the ring.
Yeah. And Moldavite. So the thing is, like, when you first get it, there's a thing called the Moldavite flush, and and so really, I remember the first day I bought it. It's a tiny thing, right? And I like held it for maybe 3 minutes and meditated with it. It was like overwhelming, like the power of just this one tiny crystal. So much so that I was supposed to go out and I was asleep by 5 o'clock because it was so much. And I was just meditating for 3 minutes. It wasn't no 30 minutes, 3 minutes. And I was just overwhelmed. So this is the power of this tiny crystal. And if you've worked with crystals, in my experience, I've never experienced any other crystal that does that really connects you. And I don't know. I don't know what the flush is about, to be honest. I just knew that after I meditated with it, I was just overwhelmed. So I had to go to sleep. And I didn't wake up till like 11 o'clock the next day. Like it was like a lot. It was a lot.
It's intense.
Yeah. So you wearing it for me is a lot. But the key is, though, for Moldavite, a lot of people they don't talk to it. You need to talk to it with intention, or else you literally gonna get anything. Okay, you're gonna get anything. So I literally told her, I was like, I need you to like heal, my issues or whatever, softly and with love. And that's what happened. And there was something we're not gonna talk about it on here, but there was something that did happen. And instead of it happening very intensely, it happened softly and slowly, which is, for me, I didn't intend for it to be slow, but when you say soft, I don't know, at least from my experience, it made it a slower process too.
Right.
But yeah, Moldavite, y'all, just make sure to do it with intention. Do not take mushrooms.
Yeah, do not try it at home with the Moldavite. I really did some G shit for like the first time ever taking my. I went all out with mine.
Oh, that was your first time too?
First time. So think about it. Now that I know I had the kratom, which is supposed to treat opioid addiction, I got that in my system. I got close to 10 grams of this penis envy in my system. I'm wearing Moldavite. Blinged out on the Moldavite. Like I was really having a trip. Like that trip lasted for like 8-9 hours. It didn't come out my system for like the whole weekend. It was in my system for the whole weekend. Whole weekend.
Sorry, it's just like, because I've been in a trip. I think it was like 5-6 hours. I mean, I was crying though, because I wouldn't like let go of my ego. So this was like a whole. But it was good because it made me aware of how deep like my experience with self-hate was. It was really, really crazy. But anyway, so it was like 6 hours of just crying. But luckily it was really beautiful because I was surrounded by people who I had just met, but they took care of me. They were hugging me. They were wiping away my tears. They were there for me, which was like crazy. So it was crazy. Yeah. And it was like, because they only knew me for a couple of days, but they only saw me when I was my happiest. And we had even taken We had even done a trip the day before, and I was fine. But then this time, it was like, no, girl, it's your turn. So I was really crying. And it was crazy because I was crying because I kept on the way, what was it? The way that I had like interpreted it was like, it was as if somebody who had only experienced self-love was like in a space of like not self-hate but crying over the self-hate that I had experienced in the past. Does that make sense? But it was as if like it was like, what is this? Like this is, it was like this isn't me. Like this, it was like a shock. It was a shock. I think that's the best way to put it. And so it was interesting because it was like all of those years of depression and self-hate, decades, kind of came back in that moment. Because like I had been kind of over the depression, I didn't get depressed as much, but it was just, it came out and it was just like, whoa, like why, what happened? Like what, why, how did this happen to us? You know?
Did you really get over it? Because you may have suppressed it and thought that you came over it. And so it's just like, we got to excavate the roots. We got to pull it all out. Because when we think we're over things, they're like, oh, really? Are you really over it? Let's test it.
Exactly. Right. That part. So it was just like, so I was just crying. I kept on crying because I was like, I want my significant other. It was really stupid, but I can't say it's stupid. It's not stupid, but it's what we're programmed, right? Especially as women, we're programmed to have this mentality that we're not complete without the other person.
But let me ask you, let's have that conversation. We're gonna go a little bit. I don't know how long.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, you already know it's gonna be longer than we intended. It's always like this.
Why can't we as women want that? I mean, I understand what you're saying in terms of like the pressure of having to have it at a certain point in your life and then having to conform to the institution of marriage, because I don't believe in marriage, but I do believe that we need to be partnered. I do believe that. That's why when I started out the conversation, the sex was so important, because my whole chakra my root chakra was blocked, my sacral chakra was blocked, because I was so heavily in tune to this spiritual journey. I didn't really feel sexual anymore. I felt like I was getting everything that I needed through my exploration, through my studies, through my teachings. And the sex had become very mundane, very boring, very like, all right, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. All right, you're going to turn me like this, we're going to do this, and then we're going to be done. Like very routine. We do need partnership. We do. We are empty without it. And I really don't want, as an elder, almost 50, I really don't want.
What? Sorry, I'm surprised. Okay.
I really don't
Go
want
ahead.
young ladies like yourself thinking that you don't. You need a partner.
Yeah. So So go ahead.
In some capacity, whomever you like, male, female, whomever it is, you have to be partnered at some point, because having that other person to bounce ideas off of, to laugh, to just be silly, for joy, to just be your authentic self, to have sex with. All of that is important. That's part of our healing. And that's what I had to realize coming out of this trip, was like, you are too heavily on one side of this spectrum. Like, you are not balancing it with life. And life is not just living and experiencing people and places. Life is being a part of a partnership. That's our classroom. That's where we really learn who we are as individuals. And that's the real test, because I have, when we talk about the cards, I'll talk about this. I have the propensity to run from situations. When things get tough, I don't even want to have a conversation, as articulate as I can be when it comes to relationships. The slightest infraction, oh, this is what it is. I'm not even waiting to hear your response. I already concocted it in my mind. I know exactly what happened, exactly what you're going to say, and I'm out. And that's not healthy. And so I try to run from the lesson of evolving as a person in a relationship, because I don't want to take accountability for my shit. Right? Like, I can easily see everything that you're doing, but my stuff doesn't even have to be anything that's hurtful, but it's still hurtful. The lack of communication is hurtful. Denying the other person a voice is hurtful. Just not even considering that this other person has feelings every time I leave and come back is hurtful. All of that is abuse, right? And so I'm thinking like, oh, I'm protecting myself, but this person has opened themselves up to me and I'm abusing that. And so I think we need to get those heavy lessons in relationships. That's the way we truly evolve, through our relationships and our relating with the mate.
Yeah. Yeah. So I guess, so what I was trying to say was like, I think in terms of like, because right, so yeah, this is my thing. God made man and woman for a reason, right? So it's just like, yeah, we do have to have partners, but I think the way that we've been programmed to come to that completion with another person is based in lack. So it's like, oh, I need a partner. That's what I'm saying. Like, we've been programmed to, I need a partner to be complete. I need a partner to be happy. And when it's the exact opposite, you need to feel complete within yourself. You need to be happy within yourself. And then you can attract a partner. Once you're whole, then you can become two parts of a whole, instead of just being half of a whole the whole time. Does that make sense?
That. I do. I agree. Yeah. I hear that. And that makes a lot of sense in theory.
Okay.
My question is this. When do we really know that we're whole? Like, I'm doing this almost 50 years. When do we realize that we're whole? Like, at what point does the universe say, okay, you've reached wholeness now, go find that partner. And then you waste all this time trying to become the perfect prototype of yourself. You're missing out on all the opportunities. And who's to say that the people that you meet along these journeys are not going to assist you in becoming whole? They're fragments of themselves too. Like, we're all trying to become whole. And so we are mirroring the parts of each other that need to be fixed, the deficits in each other, and that's allowing us to become whole. Not to the point that I am dependent upon you, like you are. I need you to become complete. That's crap. I agree with you with that. But the waiting, like, I'm going to sit and I'm going to do all this work and I'm going to become the perfect person. And when I finish my healing journey, then I'm going to attract the person. We are imperfect beings. As perfect as we try to be, we are so imperfect. So imperfect. And there is no litmus that says, yes, you've reached the perfection wholeness level.
Right.
You've reached the benchmark. Go ahead. So I say have fun. Have fun and don't have any expectations. I think what we do that makes relationships so stressful is that we place unrealistic expectations on each other. Like, be married at this age, I need to have children at this age, we need to do this at this time, we need to do that at this time, you're going to meet my friends, you're going to meet my mother, we're going to move in, let's just take it one day at a time. That's it. Let's just have fun with each other one day at a time, and we're going to deal with the obstacles one day at a time. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, so let's just sit in the present and just enjoy it right here. No expectations. I expect you to respect me.
Right.
I expect us to have fun. I would like you to be as honest as you can possibly be, no matter if it hurts my feelings. But as far as like the expectations of where we need to move and be in our place in the world, let all that go. Like, that's what makes relationships hard.
Is the expectations.
Yeah, it's like, stop at that. Like, let's just, and I had to learn that in my 20s because I was so ambitious and I had everything. I had my own place, my own car, I was making money, and I was like, all right, so my relationship is going to be like this. And I met a guy who was like, let's just see what this goes. Like, let's just be here. Like, we are sitting underneath the bridge in the park at 10 o'clock at night, drinking wine and having food, and we are enjoying the moment. Let's just be here. Let's just be present. And let's just see what it's like every day. And I'm like, wow, that's true. That's true.
That's wisdom. I love that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, because you're right about that. The expectations, they do get in the way. I mean, that's part of the reason why I broke up with my exes in the past, was because they didn't meet my expectations when it came to like having a family. I was like, this is not gonna fly. But I think it's smart though. Like, cause I don't want to have kids with somebody who doesn't share the same values as me. For me, that's not okay. Like, we need to be on board. Like, we need to be eating the same food. Like, I don't know, like, especially when the kids come in. This is my opinion. Because I know, especially, when you had kids, Mama Bear comes out, right? So it's like, if you say my kids are not eating McDonald's, they're not gonna eat McDonald's. And if my husband is trying to force me, I'm gonna be mad. So it's just like, I don't know. I think I think expectations are good, but yeah, you're right. At the beginning stages, well, actually, yeah, maybe that's the question. What is the line? Are you going to never have expectations in the relationship? Or are you saying like just at the beginning of the relationship, don't have expectations? Are you saying never have expectations? Because I don't know, when it comes to kids, I'm like,
But what you're defining are not expectations. You're defining values. Okay. And so when you're in that relationship, you're discovering each other and you're talking about your values. And so, yeah, through that relationship, you're having conversation. Like, it's not just the fun. And that's the part of the fun. Having the conversation to discover who this person is and what they believe in. And so through your daily interaction with them, you eat McDonald's? Oh, but I don't eat McDonald's. So if we were to have children, like, would they be like, so those conversations, then that's not an expectation. That's just really trying to figure out where you guys are and how you navigate this together. And so the more that you see that you have similarities and values, absolutely. But when you see that there's a lot of dissimilarity, then that's when you're like, all right, this has been cool. I've been enjoying this experience, but I'm gonna just go and see who else I could find because I got some stuff to do and we may not be right for each other right now. And that's it. Like, enjoy for what it is and move forward. But that's value. That's not an expectation.
So what would be an example of expectation?
What would be my example of expectation? So my example of an expectation is I've known you we've gone out on 3 dates and I expect you to be my man on the 4th.
Sorry. I shouldn't laugh because some people are actually like
a lot of women are doing that these days. Like, so we've been going out. So what's going on? Are we going to have this conversation? Or we've been together for 2 years and I expect to be married now. Like, we've been dating for 6 months and I expect to be married after 2 years. Like, those are expectations. And I expect us to live in a certain neighborhood. I expect us to earn a certain amount. I expect you to be making a certain amount. Like, I expect not to work and you take care of me. Those are expectations. And so we really have to define and for ourselves, like, what a relationship is and what we want. If you want something that's as ironclad as that, then I don't know where the happiness lies. Like, that's very transactional. But if we're moving from a spiritual space of enlightenment, and then we are just looking at the values, enjoying the time and seeing where we align. And where there's alignment, you feel the alignment. And when there isn't, then you know it's time to separate. But detachment is cool. Like, we just have to know when to detach. Like, I think we stay with people who aren't healthy way too long.
Okay.
And this is all subjective. Like, this is going to work differently for every couple, for everybody that you meet. And so there is no parameter, there is no framework to say that it fits like this. It's just how you feel it with this individual.
Okay. That's interesting. I have to meditate.
Sit on that. Let me know. What's your feeling about it? Like, what are expectations for you versus values? I'm interested.
Well, I mean, because for what you said, it seems like expectations are very materially based, right? It's like, I expect you to pay. Well, okay, but this is where it gets a little blurry though. But it's like, I expect you to pay for a date. So there's 2 things about this. So let's talk about that expectation, because some women have that expectation, some women don't. I know women, they're like, no, I want to pay for everything. I don't want to, I don't want to really, it's like, become a victim of the man's expectations, which at the end of the day, you're not, but that's what they're thinking, right? Because they're scared to allow, anyway, we have to go into that. But my point is, I don't know, it's hard because I'm very traditional when it comes to dating. I really do believe when you are trying to seek a long-term partner, I think it's different when you're seeking a short-term fling. I think it's a little different. When you're seeking a long-term partner, okay, so if you are trying to become 2 parts of a whole, there's masculine and the feminine. You need to be, as a woman, you have to be in your divine feminine. The man has to be in his divine masculine. Right. What that looks like is the man is the giver, the woman is the receiver. So it's like, if we go on a date, like, and again, I'm going on a date with the intention that I am, maybe not the expectation, because I don't know who it is going to be, and maybe I have to go through 5 different men, but I'm going with the with the assumption that we are both going to be in our divine
Roles.
whatever counterparts roles, yeah. And again, because like there's a depth to it, right? There's a depth to it. If you can pay for like my meals, I'm assuming okay, he's a provider. He can provide for my children. He's somebody who is stably or who is stable, who is a stable provider, right? But it's very traditional. I know now it's like, well, it's just disordered, I think, in my opinion. But it's a little disordered right now. But this is if the man is truly in his divine masculine, he wouldn't mind that, because again, he's seeking his he's out there going. I don't want to say going for a hunt. That's not the right analogy, but he's going out there trying to find his soulmate. Right. He should be open to spending as much money as possible trying to find her, because he knows that this is me and my divine. But that comes with the assumption that he understands this, So, but anyway, so where was I going with this? So my point is, I don't know. I guess it depends on your values. I think at the end of the day, I think that's part of it.
I wanted to ask, so let me say something about that. That's why I had to ask that question. So I agree with you that the woman has to be in her divine feminine and the man in his divine masculine. Let's say you're with this person for 4 or 5 years. You guys have a rhythm. And he loses his job. What's that going to look like? Because you want to go out. He can't afford it. So because you're in your feminine, are you going to say, well, you still got to pay, or are you going to be like, well, babe, I got
it? Oh, damn. Because that's different.
Because that's the thing. And that's what we don't really take into account when we think about relationships. Relationships have cycles. And so 1 minute you're up, 1 minute you're down. And so those roles shift in terms of who's paying for. I think we place too much time and attention on the monetary exchange in a relationship. When I think about the divine feminine and masculine, I think about the man being the doer and the woman being the receiver and the listener. What makes us feminine is we stop speaking so much. Stop speaking. Women talk way too much. Okay, you're smart. Okay, good. We get it. Like, you can hold a conversation, but it's good to hear a man speak. And it's good for him to feel comfortable to speak to you. And so the speaking comes into, like, when he's speaking, we listen. We give feedback. So you want to do this? You want to do that? Ask questions to show that we're listening, but also challenge him with the questions that we're asking, so that he's like, oh, let me think about it that way. I didn't think about it this way. But we are in constant competition. It's like this verbal sparring where we have to show how brilliant we are. And so that becomes like a combative situation, even though it's not meant to be, because it's like, okay, so you're trying to one-up me in this conversation. I think the femininity comes in us just being receivers, and not just receivers with gifts and things that you provide, but receiving information. And then also, when he's not doing things correctly, coming in a way like, I've been listening to you say X, Y, and Z, but I think we need to approach it from this way. Being soft in our approach, being soft in the way we deliver, and just being still. You don't always have to do. Let them do. Sweetheart, can you go and fix that bulb for me? We can do it ourselves. So what? You do it yourself. Let him do it. Sweetheart, I have a problem with this bill. I don't even know how to work this out. Can you help me solve this? Let him step into his masculinity by helping us solve problems. We are so quick to fix everything. So sometimes we just have to surrender and be the damsel in distress. Even though we are not. If this man isn't around, you can get all of this stuff. Probably less the time. But placate the ego a little bit. Like, sweetheart, I really need you to do this. And let him do it. So this way he feels like he's needed. I always heard that when I was younger. Like, Jack, you don't need a man because you got everything. You do everything yourself. What you need a man for? I'll be like, what you mean what I need a man for? Like, I can do all this myself, but I still need you around. Like, I still need that presence. I still need that conversation. I still need that masculine energy. But it's intimidating for them. Even though for us, this is who we are and we're with ourselves every day. We don't see that it's intimidating. But for them, looking on the outside in, they're like, oh, I don't even know where to begin with this woman. So,
yeah, you have a good point about that. That's something I've seen in how do we say, long-term relationships, it creates an imbalance when, and it's so funny because for us it's like not a big deal, but for men it's like, no, it's a big deal if you ask them to help, or if you know, like they want to feel helpful, they want to feel they want to be in that role of the doer, right? So it's like, it's really important for them. It's really, really, really important. Oh, there was something else, but yeah, girl. Okay.
Tricky, they real tricky.
Yeah. Funny. But yeah. Oh, and you talked about how, like, okay, this is the last thing, then we have to get to these questions. But you talked about how relationships go into cycles. So there's an astrologer, a Vedic astrologer. He talks about this. He says you don't really know if they're the one until you no, so you don't really know if they're the one until after 12 years. He said it took 12 years to really know if they're your soulmate, because you have to go through all the cycles. You have to go through all of the ups and downs. And there's ways to like look at your chart and be prepared for what's going to happen, you know, and be prepared for, you know, just to see. And what the challenges are going to be, right? But yeah, like he talks about that, and he talks about how people, they don't even last a couple of years. They don't even go through the whole cycle of figuring out, you know, if that's the person. So, okay, so we're gonna switch gears a little bit. This is a great conversation, though. I love it. And because I think it's an important conversation to have. I think we need to have more conversations like this because, like I said, right now the whole relationship thing is a hot mess. It's a hot mess. It is crazy. So anyway, oh, perfect. Okay, so let's go ahead and so one person just asked in the chat, so we're gonna get to this one first. So do you think that it's a culture thing with Black women compared to other races of women?
Ooh, okay. Oh, that's a great question. So
Thank you.
I like that. Yes, I do think it's a culture thing. I don't think it's so much like a culture thing. I think it's what society has imposed upon us. And so what they've done is that they've done a great job of removing the Black man from the Black household. And so we have lost touch with what it is to have a functioning home. Even if we have grown up in a household with mother and father, they have made it so that the Black woman is so independent. We are so strong, and we got all our female singers a champion being an independent woman, and it's getting to our heads. And yes, they teach us through societal means that we can do it all. Every woman, and yes, every other woman in every other race gets to be saved, and no one comes to save us. And so, yes, compared to other races, they make us seem as though, and we are the archetype of womanhood, but they make us seem that we don't need a counterpart who is as strong as we are, that we can do it all. And so when these men come around, they don't even know how to be with us and then we are beyond reproach. And so when they speak to us and tell us, you know, you make me feel less than, we make them feel less than. So it's a really hard thing to have. I had this huge volatile conversation with one of my close guy friends, because I'm like, we need to do work. Like, y'all need to go in your corner and work your stuff out, and we need to go in our corner and work our stuff out. We need to have healing circles where we get to our traumas, us rooted with our mothers and fathers, particularly our relationship with our mothers. And you men got to figure it out amongst yourselves in terms of what happened with you and how you're going to fix that. And then we come together. But while we're doing our work separately, we have these goals that we want to reach. We're working on these goals individually so that we're not helter-skelter, and we come together. We're coming together with some common ground. And he's like, but we need you guys to do that. I'm like, see, so you complain that we are the problem, that we are too strong, we are too masculine, we are too abusive, but yet still you can't do your healing without us. I'm like, you're going to have to figure it out. Yes, you can do it without us. Like, we can't be the problem and the solution. Like, we can't. Mm-hmm. And so they look at us with this level of, I don't want to say envy, but this level of resentment. Black men resent Black women. They resent us. Like, you can see it on the internet, and it's spewing when you speak to, if you have close male friends and you really listen to what they say, there's a resentment that they have toward us. And I don't know how long it's been brewing in them, but I know that we are not the cause of that. Society has made us the men that we are. Speaking about Black women, society has made us the men that we are. And so now we have to do the work to fix that, to come out of that cycle.
Yeah, and I mean, I think part of it is programming too. We just and it's getting worse. It's getting worse. It's getting so like, anyway. Yeah, we don't want to get into it, but it's just getting so much worse with social media. A lot of these, you have to be careful, especially if y'all have sons. Please be careful about what they consume, because there's a lot of young black men influencers who hold that, and who I don't want to put this. They're projecting that. They're told to project this, right? Especially the ones who are super famous, who get initiated into, I don't want to say the Illuminati, but because that realm, that's when we're going with that realm, right? They tell them, no, keep pushing this narrative. Yeah, keep pushing this narrative that white women are better than black women. Keep making fun of black women. They're pushing this narrative. They're pushing this programming. Unfortunately, it's getting worse. It's getting worse because they're exposed to this young
accountability in terms of what they've done to make us the way that we are too. Like black women didn't just wake up one day and become this. Like black men have contributed a great deal to the way that we are and act with them. And so it's a lot that goes on with it. And before they start to resent us and start to blame us for everything, they really need to see their roles in it as well. Like, it's not just one-sided. Like, we didn't just do this to ourselves. Like, no matter what happens with black men and black women still love black men. We have not gone on any platform and said we would rather be with white men than black men. We have never gone on any platform and bash black men to the point where we're like, oh, we don't want to have anything to do with you. But they go on every platform and talk about every other race is easier to be with than us. And so we need to get out of that narrative, because when we go to every other race and you see all the nonsense that comes with them, because it's not much different, they just mask it. You come back to us to heal it, which is why I was so mad. Like, if you guys are going into your healing circle to do this work, why do we need to structure it for you? We're the problem. Why do we need to now come and fix you yet again? So there's a lot that has to be said in this work, but we need to have these honest conversations. I'm happy that we're having these conversations on the internet, because the world takes its cues from us. And so they're watching us come out of this conflict and fix it. They created the conundrum, and they're watching us unravel it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I mean, and there's the deep history behind it too. Like, thousands of years ago, it was black women who were ruling. It's really crazy. So I think there's also like, they don't want that to happen, even though we're in the Aquarian age, and we've already shifted into a more matriarchal. I don't want to say the mainstream has shifted into more matriarchal, because I feel like we've always been matriarchal. When I go to Mexico on Mother's Day, everything is shut down. Everything is shut down on Mother's Day. Nothing is open. You can't go to the stores. People are blasting, I guess, the equivalent of like the Hispanic Celine Dion, like in the street. They're playing their mother's music. They're playing their mother's music. Like, so I think we've always been matriarchal, but I think the mainstream has been really pushing the narrative. But anyway, so I think because we're coming back into the time, there's going to be a lot of friction and a lot of resistance against going back into, how we were thousands of years ago, where it was a matriarchal society, and it was women who
ruled.
Who ruled. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. Yeah. Exactly what's happening. That's why they're pushing to have Kamala be president, because they recognize that some woman has to be at the head. I'm not sure if it's her, but
right. Yeah.
They recognize that the black woman has to be reinstated. It's just Pluto's return. Like, things are being torn down, and then the cycle is being rebuilt. And so, yes, we are coming back into a level of leadership and power, and men will have a problem with it. But they will get over it.
They will, right? They have no choice, to be honest. We ain't gonna get there, okay? We're not gonna talk about politics, because, girl,
I hate that conversation, girl.
Okay, let's get to these questions. I don't know how much time we have, but we'll do a few of them. So, thank you so much, Survivor Soul Speaks, for posting your question. If anybody else has any other question, or if Survivor Soul Speaks, if you have any other questions, please make sure to just put it in the chat. This episode of the podcast is for y'all. Okay, so we're answering y'all's questions. Okay, so the first one. So we're going to kind of switch gears a little bit into like success and all of that. So, so these are questions coming from our audience. So the first one is, what's one of the best ways to navigate the obstacles that life throws at you? And this could be using numerology or cardiology, um, plant medicine if you need to. But
Yeah.
what are some of the best ways that you found?
So, dealing with the metaphysical sciences, particularly numerology, you can look at your yearly personal number, so your yearly number. And so your personal year is just adding your birth month, the birthday, and the current year, 2024 to 8. And it'll tell you the theme of that year. If you have karmic debt numbers that come up, the karmic debt numbers are the 19-1, and that is when you imposing yourself on other people and not listening to other people's ideas, like you just ruling with an iron fist, because one is the leader. The 13-4, where you have not been doing work, and this year you have to do all the work because you've been slacking, and now you have to exercise routine and discipline and structure. This 14-5, and you've been dealing with addictions and overdoing and overindulging. It could be in food, drugs, sex, shopping, gambling, whatever your vice is. And then the worst one, 16-7, which is a loss of money and a loss of your societal status because of either criminal activities or having illicit affairs, cheating on people, not being honest
Mm-hmm.
in relationships. And so when those come up, those are like the heavy obstacles, the karmic debt. And so you can be aware of it coming up and saying, okay, well, this year I know I'm going to deal with this particular area. As life will have it, you will never know how it's going to unfold. And that's the mystery of life. There's always a key to living that we just need to do. We just need to live. In terms of how do we navigate the obstacles, there is no way to navigate it. Lean into the obstacle, sit in the obstacle, sit in the challenge, cry through it, work through it, do spiritual work through it, pray through it, meditate through it, but definitely work through it. You are not going to avoid it. And the more
Mm-hmm.
that you run away from an obstacle, is the more it's going to come and keep throwing it in your face. You're going to find it manifest through other people, other situations. You're going to come face to face with the same issue, and the universe is just going to bring other folks to play it out. And so there is no way to avoid it. To overcome is to go through it, go through it gracefully. Recognize that this is yet another challenge that I have to work through, and I'm going to work through it. It's going to be rough for an unforeseeable amount of time, depending on what the obstacle is, especially if it's a 16-7. All right, I'm going to be low on money. I may not be able to pay these bills. I probably won't be able to go on this vacation. I may lose something. I may lose a house. I may lose a car. I might lose a relationship. But what you do know is once you come out on the other side of that obstacle, you are stronger and better, and you have gained more than you lost because
Mm-hmm.
you held on to the faith that I can overcome. That's the best way to overcome it. Faith that I will come through it. No matter how
Mm-hmm.
difficult this gets, I'm going to come through it.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Thank you for answering that. Okay. The next one is, as someone who feels obligated to succeed, how do I keep the motivation going?
Well, that's interesting because if you feel obligated to succeed, that's your motivation. Like that's the obligation makes you motivated. But if it's more like I have to do this because people expect this, or this is an expectation that I placed on myself, then yeah, you're not going to be motivated because you've lost the fun of it.
Mm,
If you want to succeed, you need to make sure that you are enjoying what it is that you're doing. And that's your motivation. Because if you're not enjoying what it is that you're trying to be successful in, why are you doing it? Just for the sake of
mm-hmm,
saying that I have done this or I have reached this expectation. That's like the person who is working hard to become the doctor because everybody in the family expects it, but that's not what you want to do. And so, yes,
mm,
you're going to have to look for the motivation outside of that because that's not where your
mm-hmm,
heart lies. And so, my answer to you is find your passion. Right now, we are too, again, materially driven, and to what means? Like, I know what it is to have a luxury car. I know what it is to have a fancy apartment. I know what it is to wear every designer out there. And so what? At the end of the day, I got all those things, and the void was still there. It didn't fill
mm,
any hole. It didn't make me feel complete. I had to leave all of that and start from scratch. I had to quit my job and start from scratch. And I've had more fun and more peace of mind barring the ups and downs with the finances. But I've had more fun and more peace of mind now, and I've accomplished more now for myself with work that is legacy driven as opposed to working for someone else. So if you need to find the motivation, that means you're not in your passion. And if you are in your passion and you need to find the motivation, and you need to have fun, you need to go out, skate, dance, hang out with
Mm-hmm.
people who make you laugh from your soul, from your belly. Like, we take for granted how much fun means in life. Like, we just have to be dumb, like just be silly, have a water fight, whatever it is that brings your inner child out, you need to have that. And that's what makes you motivated, because you're just, abandoning all the expectations, abandoning all that adultness, all that
Mm-hmm.
adulthood that we get caught up in. Like, I'm so grown. Why are you so grown? What's the rush to be grown? Like, even
Mm-hmm.
if you are grown, you need to just be dumb sometimes. Just say some stupid stuff. Like, we're too smart for our own good. Like, why? So just have fun. That's where the motivation comes from, having fun and listening to some good music. Definitely, it's your
Of
motivation.
course.
Yeah.
Always, always, always tell people that. I'm like, just dance once a day. That's it. That's it.
That's it.
That's all you got to do. And I love water fights. So you mentioned water fights. I was like, I missed that. I missed that.
Listen, last week I had to go and see Michelle and Daniel Cello. That's like, girl, I can't do this live. Last week I have to go skate. I gotta go see
Mm-hmm.
Michelle and Daniel Cello. Like, I had to plan fun. Last week was my week of just fun, because I haven't done anything fun this entire summer. So I'm like, nah, I gotta get back
Mm-hmm.
to that
You
every.
have
It's
to.
fun, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Okay, so let's do Survivor So Speak. She has one more question, or this person has one more question. I love the conversation about the trip and the mediumship
Mm.
skills. What advice or stone recommendations do you have for when you experience mediumship
When awake and
um, and sleep? Okay.
I love that. So stones that I use for mediumship are do more to write. It is a blue stone that allows you to go back into past lives and to access Akashic records. So that's a good one that I like
Mm,
to use. Do more to write. I also like to use, and I put this underneath my pillow. I also use
mm,
Mystic Merlinite. Mystic Merlinite is one that I like to use. It's one particular issue when I had a friend who was working against me and doing some attacks, and I wanted to know who it was. And I put that Mystic Merlinite under my pillow, and it showed me exactly who the person was and what they were doing. So, Mystic Merlinite is another. When I want to have safe trips while I'm journeying, I put black kyanite under my pillow. I sleep with black kyanite every night, because
mm-hmm,
sometimes they be coming for me in my sleep. And I also use blue kyanite, blue crystalline kyanite, because that allows me to meet with my angelic guides as well. And so those are the
mm.
blue kyanite, do more to write, mystic merlinite, and black kyanite for protection.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Okay, so this one is about commitment. So, how can I stay committed in a way that allows me to succeed, basically?
Oh, break down your goals into smaller chunks. Like, don't make it too lofty. And so we always have this grand vision and idea, and you definitely need that, because that's the
Mm-hmm.
end goal, even though there is no end goal. But you break those ideas into smaller chunks, and it's like creating a project plan. I got one of my degrees in project management. You create this grand plan. You know what the ultimate goal is, but you have little projects in between that, and you create milestones. And so within that, by this certain time, I'm going to accomplish this. By this time, I'm going to accomplish that. But it's not just the accomplishment of it, it's the steps that's necessary for you to take to accomplish that goal. And so writing it out, drafting it out, giving yourself a timeline, not making the timeline so strict that you have to meet it. And if you don't, you're stressing yourself out. Like, life is life, and like, just be realistic about it, but create different milestones. Okay, so if I'm going to write my book, how often am I going to write? When I wrote my first book, I knew that I was going to write every single day and take one day off. I was going to accomplish a number of chapters by the time that I came back. I was going to
Mm-hmm.
finish it by a certain time. I hit all those milestones. I wrote half of it in 3 weeks. came back and wrote the other half of it in 3 months, because coming home and being away are two very different things.
Mm-hmm.
Once I did that, how long was going to take me to edit? Then how long was going to take me to create the cover art? How long was it going to take me to find out how to even publish this and get this out? Am I going to go the traditional route? Am I going to go the self-publishing route? I'm going to take these classes to make sure that I understand the difference between the two and why it would be best for me to do either of them. And then I'm going to decide on it. And once I publish it, once I decided to self-publish it, how am I going to market it and push it? And so small chunks. This way you're not overwhelming yourself with the big process. And that too allows the universe to unfold the steps for you, because you don't know everything going in, but you just stay again in the moment, working on what you're working on right now. When you finish that, universe gives you a teacher, or it gives you a video, or it gives you a class. This pops up on your timeline and you're like, oh, okay, let me just sign up for this. And so it gives you the breadcrumbs, just as long as you're showing continuous momentum toward that energy.
I love that. Okay. What is what is the difference between cardiology, astrology, and numerology? Just if you can do quick.
Question. So numerology is the study of the person, you, with the numbers, either 1 through 8 in the Babylonian alphabet, and 1 through 9 in the Pythagorean alphabet. The Babylonian alphabet is called the Chaldean alphabet. It is the most ancient alphabet that there is. The Pythagorean alphabet is what they call the modern Western alphabet. That's 1 through 9.
Mm-hmm.
And what it does is you are looking at the letters in your name and your birth date to decode the cycles, the people, the events that are taking place. And so that is the study of numbers to get to your life's purpose, your life's path, your destiny, your obstacles that we spoke of, and also the cycles. Astrology is looking at the rotation of the planets as it is measured against your natal chart. And so that's why when you look at astrology, we have to have the birth date, the exact place, and the exact time, because you need to know where the planets were situated at the exact time that you were born. And so all of the planets, not just the sun sign, which a lot of people refer to, are on your natal chart. And astrology is looking at how these planetary movements on a daily basis are rotating around your natal chart and how it affects you in terms of the aspects and the planets that are aspecting with each other. Cardiology is having a sexual relationship between numerology and astrology. The two of them are merging together, and so you get the cards, and you get both of them. You get the planets, you get the numerology, the numbers, 1 through 9, except that this goes to 13 because you're dealing with the playing cards, and that goes to 13 because there are 13 cards in each suit. And so with cardiology, you are looking at the playing cards. Everybody's birth date is aligned to one of the 52 playing cards, and that is transposed onto a cardiology spread, which is called the grand solar spreads. And every year those cards move around, unless you have a birthday card that is stationary, which is the King of Spades, Jack of Hearts, the 8 of Clubs, or cards that are semi-fixed, that swap with each other, which is the 9 of Hearts and the 7 of Diamonds, or the Ace of Clubs and the 2 of Hearts. And so everybody else moves around every year. So we get to experience what it is to sit in somebody else's house. Like, so one year I might be sitting in LaJoie's house, and so I know what it is to be in the 6 of Spades position. And then one year she'll sit in my house, so she'll know what it is to be in an Ace of Diamonds position. And so we are getting a feel for what it is to sit in someone else's energy. Cardiology shows us the people, the events, and the karmas that are attached to us, because in each card you have a card that supports you, a supporting karma card, and you have a card that challenges you, your challenging karma card. And the challenges, again, are not really to stress you out, but to allow you to get to a place of perfection, as close to perfection as you can.
Okay. Okay, let's go to this question. Okay, so so what is the what is the master card in cardology? And can you talk a little bit about that? And the cardology cards are assigned to certain birthdays in the year. Does this mean, like, how do I put it? well, yeah, okay, so sorry. We're going to say that for after. So, what is the master card in cardiology? Let's talk about that first.
So it's interesting. It's an interesting question. All of the kings are masters. And so the king of hearts is the master of your emotions. The king of clubs is the master of your ideas, your thoughts, your intellect. The king of diamonds is the master of your values and your monetary gain. And the king of spades is the master of all masters. Like the spades is the suit that absorbs all of the other suits in it. And so when you are a spade, like yourself, you can essentially inhabit all of the cards that come underneath you. So you can be any version of a six that you choose to be, and you can also be every other card and every other suit that is less than yours. So you can be any heart you want, any club you want, any diamond you want, and any spade up until the six of spades, because the spades are the seniors. And so when you're talking about the masters of all masters, the hearts are the babies,
Mm-hmm.
clubs are the teenagers, the diamonds are the adults, the spades are the senior citizens. The king of spades is the master of all masters. That is the card, they call that the God card. That card does not move, it sits in the sun. So unless you are born on January 1st, you do not know what it is to be a king of spades. You may have it in your spread, meaning that it may show up as your Mercury card or your Venus card or your Mars card. And so you may have it for a 52-day period. And once you have it, it allows you to tap into all of the knowings and knowledge and the gifts that you have. And so things that appear to be obstacles to you in a previous period, all of a sudden, like you know the answer to it. Like, oh, I can just do this, I can just do that. Because the King of Spades is so resourceful, it can pull on any of the other energies to solve its problems. The King of Spades is the card of like realization. Like it is a lot of power to hold. In fact, many
Mm-hmm.
people who have that card as their birth card don't often live up to the expectation of being a King of Spades. You have a lot of King of Spades who are slackers because they don't want the responsibility of doing it. I have a girlfriend who is a King of Spades, and she truly embodies that King of Spades energy. She sits on her throne, very sweet and very knowledgeable, still very judgmental to a fault because king, right? I'm ruling over my
Mm-hmm.
dominion and you guys are underneath me and I see everything. King of Spades knows everything. So I'm imposing what I know and see on you, but yet still I don't move. So I still have blinders in terms of what's happening in my periphery. I don't see to like the rest of us. We can see what's happening at the side of us because we move around. The King of Spades, because it doesn't move, is very one-sided. It just looks straight ahead. So it doesn't.
Mm.
Even though it knows a lot, it still needs people around who they can trust to guide them, to show them,
Mm-hmm.
well, you might want to look at this differently. You might want to consider this because they don't have the luxury of moving around to see things. And so the King of Spades is a card that you have when you have truly mastered yourself. And to get to the King of Spades is the Queen of Spades, which is my Pluto card for life. And the Queen of Spades is the card that's all about self mastery. And self mastery is a card of you becoming the master of your craft, becoming the master of what you say you know, and also becoming the master of yourself, your emotions. The Queen of
Mm-hmm.
Spades is a ruthless chick. She don't have time for
Mm-hmm.
crying. She don't have time for whining. She don't have time for not taking responsibility. She's like, do the work and make sure you do it for you first before you do it for other people. Because if she sees you overcompensating for other folks, she's just going to strip you of everything. Walk
Mm.
away and be like, no, I want you to fix you. And once you have you together, then you can work on other people. And so always say you have to do the work with the Queen of Spades first before you even attempt to look at the King of Spades, because the Queen of Spades is where the real work comes from.
Mm. Okay. Okay. Cool. Thank you. Okay. So the next one, can you see? You kind of answered this already. Can you see past lives using cardiology?
Yeah, you can see past lives. We each have a transformation card, and so we are all dealt 13 cards for our life spread. And every year we get a new set of 13 cards. Even if you don't move, you get a new set of 13 cards. And the 13th card is your transformation card. And so the 13th card, the transformation card, is pretty much like your soulmate. And so that's
Mm-hmm.
like a karmic relationship there. And so you would understand too that that relationship is somebody who's coming through so you can work through. If you have somebody who is that card in your life, that's an indicator that that's a relationship from a past life that you guys can they're coming to support you in some way, or they're coming to challenge you in some way, but your life is going to be transformed with their energy in some shape or fashion. But you can also see past lives with like the card placements. And so the Six of Hearts is a past life card. And so if you have a Six of Hearts in your spread for that year, and it can be in any one of the planetary positions, and that is Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, and the reward. And you have your cosmic lesson, your cosmic moon, and then the transformation. If you have it in any one of those positions, then you know that, yeah, somebody is coming from a past life that you're going to be either supported or challenged by. Like, I wish I can show you guys the spread so you see what it looks like. So I'll be able to show you that you have the Six of Hearts, but you have a card supporting it. That card supporting it could be somebody's birthday who's in your life. So let's say I have the Six of Hearts and it's sitting in LaJoie's house. It's a Six of Spades. And so I can know, well, okay, so I have some karma that I need to work out with LaJoie because I have the Six of Hearts, the Six of Spades here in the challenging position. And so we got some stuff we need to work out. If it's in the challenge,
Okay.
then we got some friction that needs to be.
What's the challenging position?
The challenging is when the card is sitting to the left of the card. The card
Okay.
on the right is supporting. So you have three
Okay.
cards in a square. You have the main card, and then you have the supporting karma card here, and the challenging karma card there.
Okay, cool. Thanks. Okay, two more. Okay, so how can I use cardology to be more successful?
You can use cardology to be more successful by really understanding your life spread and how to maximize it and how to find the people in your life who embody those energies, which means that you'll look at the cards, see who in your life has those birthdays or those birth cards, and see how they play out those roles in the position and then how to leverage the energy. I always say the first thing to for cardology, learn the energy of the cards. And each of the cards has a specific meaning. Besides it being somebody's birthday, they mean something. And so the more that
Mm-hmm.
you understand what each card means, you know what energy it is and what energy you can play with. And so, if, for instance, if I am going to write a book and in my Mars position, I have the Three of Clubs. The Three of Clubs is the writer's card. It's in my Mars position, and Mars is the planet of taking action, of having initiative, of putting passion behind it, of getting the work done. I have that card in my yearly spread for 52 days. I know I'm going to write the hell out of that book in those 52 days because I have this energy sitting here waiting to be tapped in. And so I'm going to make sure that I'm diligent with my writing for those 52 days. I may not be able to write the entire book at that time, but I know that I will have the energy, the tenacity, and I have that card sitting there giving me that extra power and push to accomplish a great deal of it. So understanding what the cards mean and knowing how to utilize the energy is how you would best maximize that.
Okay, perfect. And last one, can I use Chat GPT to know my cardology?
I mean, nobody's stopping you, but why? Why would you use an AI to do a metaphysical tool? Like, we got to stop
Mm,
cutting corners. Nothing in life is microwave. Nothing in life comes easy, and everything is a process. Cardology is a metaphysical tool that you need to learn through conversation. And so you have to be in rooms with people who are learning and knowing and understanding and using these energies so that you can bounce ideas off of. Otherwise, you're sitting in a silo thinking you understand how to use it. But when you're around people of like mind, and you're having these conversations and decoding these events, then that's when it really comes alive. And so I always say, hop into a class. You can do anything with chat,
mm-hmm,
but I am not one who is a proponent of AI. I'm old school.
mm-hmm,
Do it yourself. And if you can't do it, stay in your lane. It's not for you. Like, we're all not supposed to be able to do everything. That's why the
mm-hmm,
world is so ugly right now because everybody's jumping into everybody else's lane and not staying focused on what they came here to do. And
mm-hmm.
so if you need Chat GPT, that's just saying that you just either don't want to do the work or it's just not for you.
Or something, or something. I'm like, okay. And Jackie, how can people find you? How can people reach out to you and,
How
and do cardology with you?
you can follow me on Instagram, Jazz, Jaz, only one Z, because with the two Z's, that's a 16-7, that's karmic debt. I don't want that. So jaz.afrodite, jazz.aphrodite, Aphrodite, Dite.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Jackie, for being on the show today. I really appreciate it. Thank you for all of thanks. Yeah. It's always great. It's always great chatting with you. Oh my God. Every time. It's like
the time flies by so quickly. I'm like, what are we 8:30 already? Okay, cool.
I know, right? So, and thank you for everybody who was participating in the live. I really appreciate it. Thank you, Survivor Soul Speaks, for your questions, and thank you for all of the guests who submitted questions before the show. And do you have anything else to say, Jackie, to the audience?
I would just say, well, I'm grateful for you opening your platform for me twice and coming in and having these conversations. I'm grateful for the conversation and allowing it to flow and go wherever it needed to go. But I also want to say that we're at a pivotal time where we need to tap into these sciences. And a lot of questions were like, how do I maximize it to become my best self? And that's really what it's about. Maximizing these sciences to become our best selves. Like the sciences will never prepare you for the exact event. Like you still have to have that living factor, but just knowing what's coming up and preparing for it is key. And so find your teacher, find whoever resonates with you. Could be me, it doesn't have to be, but it's a wide circle of us all over the world where we're doing this work. And so follow me on Instagram, you'll see who else I work with, and you can find the teacher that best suits you, but definitely start learning.
Yeah, or teachers. That's one thing. I was like, I got multiple people that I'm always learning from. Okay, thank you so much, Jackie, and y'all. I will see y'all next week. Peace.
Peace, y'all.
Okay.